it going, everyone? AFC Finners here. We are back and the sun is shining. The summer has truly begun. It's lovely to see. Come all the way to Kettering as they're playing Hitchin. We tried to come here back in at the start of the year when they still had Gary Hooper and Marvin Sordell, but sadly the rain sorted out. But we ended up at Southampton instead, so had a good day. Tomato's here. Just had a nice lunch at Marston's. So let's see what it's like at Kettering. Well then, Kettering, famous in the James Acaster song, and there it is. Nice little square here. We've got the club shop, nice pizza bar. Good thinking. It's a nice place for people to sit, and there's a club bar too. Shall we just eat some? That does look decent. It's all inside. Imaginative merch. I quite like it. Club purge, £4. It's not more than it should be, but it's a job. Caffeine fix required for only £1.50. The early kickoffs on the Premier League and Championship on. It's a nice bar. Okay, so they got a Player of the Year thing you can vote for. Thomas just put that. So he's happy. So we're about to go inside, but before we do, let's find out a bit about today's host, Kettering Town. Kettering Town were founded in 1872 and were joined the Midland League 20 years later. 4 years on, they won the league and also went on a great run in the FA Cup, defeating Football League sides Loughborough and Leicester City, before being knocked out by Newton Heath, who would later become Manchester United. They won the Midland League again in 1900 and would apply for election to a Football League, but were unsuccessful. They dropped down to the Northamptonshire League in 1904 and won the league at the first attempt. They would later go on to join the Southern League and then the Central Alliance. They would win a number of titles over the 1920s, but were also faced with several more unsuccessful attempts to join the Football League. Whilst going through various leagues, they picked up more titles before joining the Southern League in 1950. They won the Southern League in 1957 and won the North West Division 2 years later. They reached the third round of the FA Cup in 1969 and went on to win Division 1 North in 1972 and the Premier Division title the season after under the management of Ron Atkinson. Applications to join the Football League continued, but they would still not find their way through. They were a founding member of the Alliance Premier League in 1979, the division we now know as the National League. They were runners-up in this division in 1994 and 1999, and also reached the second FA Trophy final in 2000, but were unsuccessful again. They experienced relegation to the Southern League Premier Division in 2001 and secured immediate promotion. They suffered another relegation soon after and ended up in the Conference North in 2004. Paul Gascoigne served briefly as their manager in 2005, but his tenure only lasted 39 days. They won the Conference North in 2008. They reached the fourth round of the FA Cup in the 08-09 campaign, losing 4-2 to Fulham. They were forced to move out of Rockingham Road in 2011 and entered administration, which saw them demoted by 2 divisions. They experienced a further relegation soon after, and after spending a brief period at Stillbark in Corby, they moved to their current home of Latimer Park the next year. Redemption would come though in 2015, when they won the Evo Sticks Southern League Division 1 Central title by 11 points to seal promotion. Reorganisation of the league saw them placed in the Premier Division of the Evo Sticks system for the 18-19 campaign, and they won this by 14 points to rejoin the National League North. They were relegated to Premier Division Central of the National League in 2023, but under new ownership, hopes are high for the future, with them currently challenging towards the top of the table. Overall, they've won 1 National League North title, 1 National League League Cup, 2 Midland League titles, 4 Southern League titles, 1 each of the Southern League Premier Division Central, Southern League Division 1, Southern League Division 1 Central, and 2 Eastern Southern Division League titles, 1 Southern League League Cup, 2 United Counties League titles, 30 Northamptonshire Senior Cups, and 16 Maunsell Cups. And a bit of trivia, Kettering Town were the first ever team to wear sponsor on the front of their shirts when they signed a sponsorship deal with Kettering Tyres. The FA insisted they remove the slogan, and so their manager Derek Dugan changed the words to Kettering T, and Dugan claimed the T stood for town and not tyres. The FA legalised shirt sponsorships the next year. So those are our hosts, Kettering Town. Let's have a look inside their home, Latimer Park. It's a lovely sunny day. It's a good idea. Trinity, burger van, beer van, tuck shop here. That's good thinking. So I'm confused, what club are we at? That's got cool, an FA Cup goal counter. I like that. Right, but dugouts. Strange stand there. It's a weird stadium. Got a nice bundle of sweets and a Dr Pepper. 450, lovely stuff, good tuck shot.
Latimer Park has faced Hitchin Southern League Premier Central Day between Hitchin Town and Kettering Town the Puppies. Lining up for Hitchin this afternoon, number 1 Sebastian Stacey.
They said it. Half time here, the game is not matching the weather at all. It's been poor, hasn't it? At least he's got his bag of sweets there, but very little to write home about. 0-0, hopefully in the second half. That's about it, really. They keep done half a job for me. Kettering have been lifeless and poor, and they've finally been punished for it. Balls in their box, been fired into net. Hitchin take the lead. Not 0-0, thank goodness for that. Not long to go, Kettering had a great chance, they blew it over the bar, and shortly after Hitchin in front of the other end, and netted the second. Game over, 2-0. For some reason the moon has decided to make an appearance. Sorry mate, you should have stayed at home. Only a few minutes to go and Kettering have got a penalty. Chance to register a shot on target at the very least. Let's see what happens. Maybe you were wrong, moon. Football, bloody hell. In probably the last kick of the game, Kettering go into the box. Someone's had to stab it, it's somehow trickled in. That's why you don't go home early. It was somehow one of the worst games I've ever seen, still full of drama. 2-2. Well, somehow one of the worst games I've ever seen ends up one of the most dramatic endings. You never guess Kettering were near top table and Hitchin went towards the bottom. But it's a game full of surprises. I guess Hitchin got cocky, but Kettering didn't deserve that. But it's all matters. 2-2. It's a funny old game. So that was Kettering Town. I don't know how I'm going to explain to people that one of the worst games I've ever seen and one of the most dramatic endings I've ever seen. But it's been a good afternoon. Good to be back with Tomaldo, and thank you to Kettering Town for hosting us and give us a fun afternoon. Still had fun despite the game, but all the best for the rest of the season. Hope you can do the best you can in the promotion race. We're heading home now. Next one is Salisbury. Yeah. Salisbury on the Easter weekend. Hopefully I've got my facial hair back by then. Currently I'm about level with Tom, which doesn't happen often. Soon he'll overtake me. Right, thank you Kettering. Time to rate the experience. So we will start off with the welcome, and there's definitely a strong community there. People are very passionate about the club, and it really means a lot to supporters. And it was like a nice experience. Lots of supporters there really cared about the club. And we also saw that there was like a group of children from a local team that they made sure to give like a really good experience. They like showed them around, got on to meet the players, got on to play on the pitch at half time, and just really made sure to engage with the local community. I liked that. We had a lady next to us who was chatting to us throughout the game and asked where we were from. For the most part, some people were nice. There was someone near us who nearly got in a fight because a away team substitute was standing in his way. But apart from that, they were quite pleasant supporters. They set up well outside the grounds. There's a really good club bar, good seating area for people to just sit down and engage before the game. But there was a nice vibe in the club bar. It's really well set up. And they just take a lot of pride in their image. They've got that little sign showing how many goals they scored in the FA Cup. Like, definitely elements of pride in there, and definitely very nice people. So I think it's a good welcome. You do feel amongst it and didn't feel isolated as outsiders, which I thought was pretty good, and easily able to chat to the locals. So there's not necessarily much where the club goes out of the way to do the welcome, but it just generally works really well. You just slide in easily and fit in really well. So it works out quite well. So I'll probably give the welcome a 7 out of 10. Food and drink, they've really thought that out really well. Obviously the club bar is really good, and they had like all kinds of stuff available, even had like what looked like local ales, which I think is really good, engage the local community and get outsiders to try local beer. I thought was really good. The fact they had that pizza van was a fantastic idea. Loads of really good options on there, so you could get pizza, chips, even lasagna, which is something that I've never seen offered at a football game before. Bear in mind I've been to 2 games in Italy as well. Well, really well. It was just my luck that we'd been for lunch before and then we saw that pizza van. If we hadn't gone for lunch, that pizza van wouldn't have been there. That's just sod's law, isn't it? But inside it was really good as well. And 4 different kiosks, one in the corner that did tea and coffee. You also had a burger van, a bar where you could buy pints of Carlsberg, and then that tuck shop. That was incredibly well thought out and really good variety. So plenty of options for all kinds of different tastes, so it's incredibly well thought out in terms of food and drink. And there's a few things that make it unique. I definitely think more clubs should have a pizza van like they do. I thought it was really imaginative, really well thought out. And that sweet bag I had was lovely. So nice to saying at that. Felt like I was at Face. So it's really well thought out food and drink, options both inside and outside, and plenty of variety. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Atmosphere, it all seemed decent at the start at points, but as the game went on, I think people got more bored. It sort of faded out. But at the start, they made a bit of noise, but it sort of went away quite quickly. And then at the end, a lot of the people that were singing who were next to us in the second half just ended up throwing someone's hat about and seemed more focused on that than the game. And it's like, I know it wasn't the best game, but if you want a good atmosphere, you still need to get behind a team and not just get distracted by someone's hat. It's just a bit like, well, why don't you just go to Weatherspoons and and play there? But it just felt like there were a minority of people amongst those that generate the atmosphere who went to the game as an excuse to get drunk, rather than a lot of people who were around us who were genuinely getting behind the team and supporting them. It's like, if you all get drunk, just go to the pub. So I felt that soured the atmosphere a bit. It was nice to see the chant that James Acaster made famous in person, but started off all right, but went flat very quickly. And I thought, considering the amount of people that moved sides each half to make sure they're behind the goal Kettering were attacking, I thought it would have been better. And even though it was such a shock, the second goal, it's still an added time equaliser when you've been completely out of the game. I thought we've got a stronger reaction, but it's a bit like, oh, come on. Whereas you'd expect like absolute intense limbs for that. So yeah, I think a lot of the atmosphere left a lot to be desired. So I'll probably give it a 3 out of 10. Stadium, I know they're obviously sharing with Burton Park Wanderers, but you know, the Kettering's branding is all over the ground. I felt it was really inconsistent as a ground. There were just seating areas would start, then ends, then there were long stretches where there was just nothing. And I felt it really wasn't well set up at all. Where we were in the first half was a bleacher stand. It had also been rented from a local company and not been maintained. Like the seats were faded. And it was just loads of areas where it was like 3 different stands in one. Like where we were in the second half had like this standing bit, but it only covered about a third of the stand. And you just had these awkward standing bits. It was just a bit of a mishmash. Didn't really flow, and I felt it was really inconsistent. Like there's areas where they do take care, because I saw the name Kettering Town every 5 seconds. But I just think there just needs to be a little bit more care in the stadium. It just wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing. And I felt for a club that's obviously done well in the FA Cup, has had people like Ron Atkinson, Paul Gascoigne, and to be able to get like people like Gary Hooper and Niall Ranger to play for them, you would think they would have a better ground, but I just didn't really think much of it inside. Everywhere had a good view of the game, I'll give them that. There was only one stand that really had like a full consistency, and that was behind the goal to our left in the first half. There's just one terrace, but apart from that, it was just so inconsistent. Bits where you had a tiny stand, it just didn't really make sense. You just need at least one other stand that just covers the whole length. And I think they really need to invest in that, get a better grounds, because if they do want to end up in the Football League, they're really not going to get anywhere with a stadium like that. So I think it's in a good area. The facilities outside are good. It's a really good club bar, but I think they just need to invest more in getting better stands, because it's inconsistent. It's confusing trying to find the best area to sit, and it just doesn't look nice when there's so much inconsistency. So I think a lot of work to be done on the stadium. I'll give it a 3 out of 10. And finally, value for money. So it's about 15 quid for a ticket, maybe a tiny bit more than maybe it should be, but not the end of the world. There's only 150 for a coffee though in the club bar. It's about 4 quid for sweets and Dr Pepper, which is okay. 4 quid for the pin badge, which I think there should be 3 quid no matter what club you're at. So some of the value might be a bit inconsistent, some of it okay, but it is affordable. It's not ripping you off, just one of those where it's a tiny bit more than I think it should be. But even though it wasn't the best game and not the best stadium, you still get a good experience, and there's definitely pride taken in certain areas like the club bar. There is a nice vibe there. They do welcome you well. While some areas are a little bit more expensive than it should be, they are at least a nice club and I wish them well. So not going to lose too much sleep over the value for money. It's okay, but maybe some areas are a tiny bit more expensive than it should be. So I'll give the value for money a 6 out of 10. So that was Kettering Town. Good to be back. Wishing you all the best for the rest of the season. Not the best game, but if a bad game can produce that much drama, then we're very lucky people. So definitely recommend it. Really nice day. All the best for the rest of the season. Thank you to Malda for driving us there. It's been a good laugh. In the meantime, if you'd like to support days out like this, you can check out my Patreon in the link below and support the channel for as little as £1 a month. Thank you all for watching. I've been AFC Finners. See you next time and stick with us as we go ground to ground. AFC Finners out.